Hey guys, what's going on? It's Nick from Raw Wasabi. Today we're going to be diving headfirst into the sonic landscape that is Marilyn Manson's newest album. It's his newest album called Assassination Under God. So believe me when I say I definitely came into listening to this with some wicked high expectations. And let me tell you right now, this album, Assassination Under God, absolutely blew my mind. You know, when an artist has a discography as vast as Manson's, you gotta brace yourself for the occasional meh. But without a doubt, with Manson, this artist in particular, he consistently just knocks it out, man. What really struck me is with how Manson really seemed to recapture that raw, visceral energy from his earlier work. You know, this really has that Antichrist superstar kind of grit, and even a touch of that Hollywood darkness, and somehow injected it with a modern sensibility. It's like he's channeled the ghosts of his past and given them a fresh, powerful voice. I'm not kidding, this album has been on repeat ever since it originally came out. And without a doubt, this current lineup that Manson put together has definitely just embraced the new music and just locked in completely. I mean, it's a cohesive force that just elevates the music to another level. I mean, the musicianship is absolutely top notch, and you can feel the passion and effort poured into every track. And Manson's voice, it sounds incredible. I don't know if he's been working on his vocals or what, but there's newfound clarity and a power that's captivating. It's not that his voice was ever bad, but there's a distinct quality on this album that's just truly, truly impressive. Here's a fascinating tidbit. Manson primarily wrote and produced this album himself. And you can absolutely tell. There's an unfiltered vision here, a sense of complete creative freedom. He wasn't bound by anyone else's expectations, and the results are a record that just feels authentically him through and through. A powerful statement of pure artistic evolution. Each track pulses with a raw energy, a testament to his ability to just rise above the chaos and continue to push boundaries. This is the sound of someone who has faced the fire and walked through it stronger. So without a doubt, musically, this album masterfully blends Manson's signature industrial rock with moments of just surprising vulnerability, and even a touch of sophistication. The darkness and abrasiveness are still there, don't worry, but they're beautifully balanced with introspection and almost cinematic passages. There's a maturity in the songwriting, which is a sign of growth, but it never loses that edgy, provocative spark that just drew us all in the first place. Lyrically, this album is a bold declaration of survival. Raw, unapologetic, and unflinching. Manson confronts his demons head-on, taking ownership of his past without retreating. The utter defiance in these tracks is palpable, making it clear that he's not just surviving, he's thriving. And speaking of lyrics, his wit is back in full force. While I personally found We Are Chaos to be a slightly stronger album sonically, the lyrical content of this album in particular definitely is as sharp and as biting as anything from his prime. The themes are powerful, and the writing is just as intriguing as ever. Now, if I had to nitpick, the only song that didn't immediately grab my attention was Death Is Not a Costume. It feels like it's building towards a guitar solo that never quite materializes, and the bridge teases something more before circling back to the chorus. As an outsider looking in, knowing the context that led to this album in the first place definitely adds a lot of layers to it. You know, the personal struggles Manson has faced over the past couple years, it undeniably colors the listening experience. Going in unaware might not be the same impact as listening with that backdrop in mind and with that context. It's clear Manson is not apologizing. So now, guys, without a doubt, considering everything that Manson has been through in the last couple years, it's almost a miracle that a label invested so much time and money into helping him produce a full-length album, which was cleverly split into two parts. So it's definitely a smart, perhaps commercially driven way to test the waters and maximize the impact of each new song. I mean, the fact that he's already released 4 music videos for this album to promote it is just pretty impressive. For an artist who's faced so much industry backlash and likely had limited budget and support in the first place. And the first single, As Sick as the Secrets Within, hit all the right notes. It felt heavy, meaningful, revelatory, and artistic, with a stunning, lush music video. It struck a great balance between cryptic imagery and direct lyrics, reminiscent of We Are Chaos, but with Tyler Bates' cinematic touch. Unfortunately, the hype cooled off a little bit with the next 2 singles and videos. I mean, in all honesty, they definitely felt more formulaic, bogged down by too many vocal filters, excessive production, cheesy hooks, and honestly, somewhat boring visuals. But I understand the label's strategy. Showcase a new band to attract potential investors and promoters for future tours. I mean, these tracks are safe. And while they have some clever lyrics and familiar guitar tones, the occasional nod to past glories, they are, in my opinion, the weakest links on a relatively short album, slightly diluting the overall listening experience. I mean, they also felt a little bit too synth-heavy and revealed the chorus melodies too early. You know, it just made it so repetitive in a way. But without a doubt, the rest of the album is remarkably strong. Hyper-focused, clean, and just almost surgical in a way. It can definitely feel a bit cold at times and calculated, but that again speaks to the immense effort put in by Manson, the band, and the label to make this effort successful. You can definitely sense that newfound sobriety, and it makes its way onto this release, which might take some getting used to. We've grown so attached to the more chaotic rock and roll energy of Manson throughout his career. I mean, I can only imagine how difficult it was for Manson to write these lyrics and create a concept without those crutches. So we should all acknowledge that and welcome this new chapter for this very influential artist. So without a doubt, you cannot talk about Marilyn Manson without bringing up Tyler Bates. His cinematic style is amplified here, making many of the songs sound like they could have been part of a movie soundtrack. We saw glimpses of this on The Pale Emperor and Heaven Upside Down, but here they've seemingly synthesized elements from most of Manson's albums, you know, including The High End of Low and Born Villain. The result is both familiar and fresh revitalized. I definitely wouldn't say that it's better or worse than his past work, but it's just distinctly different, carving out its own identity without being overshadowed by the previous masterpieces that came before it. So let's call it smart. This is a well thought out album. And that's perhaps why I sense, personally, at least me, a slight lack of that raw spontaneity and impending doom that characterized some of his previous work. More direct, it's just so much more accessible, more direct, and sonically clear. So I'm honestly genuinely curious about how part 2 of this effort will be. Maybe something a bit more daring and visceral. I mean, this first part feels like a strong appetizer, slightly hindered by a few tracks that haven't fully clicked with me yet. You know, like Sacrilegious, Death is Not a Costume, and Raise the Red Flag. I have a feeling that once part 2 is released, the entire collection will feel incredible, allowing us to cherry pick at least 11, 14 killer tracks to create one phenomenal album. I mean, if I really had to pick a favorite track from this record, it would definitely be Meet Me in Purgatory, just because it just feels like more of a cinematic and synth-heavy Heaven Upside Down in a way. So overall, if I had to be hypercritical, I'd say that Manson's vocals are occasionally a bit too muddy and need to be cleaned up a little bit, and some of the melodies aren't his best. But make no mistake, this is a solid album.